Hi everybody, I'm Robin Warner. First and foremost, my video title is no lie. This machine I'm about to show you has 6,700 horsepower and can achieve up to 192.625 miles an hour, 310 kilometers an hour, which we might as well just call 193 miles an hour. Honda calls it the Halo, and that stands for Honda Automotive Laboratories of Ohio. It's a brand new, more than $124 million facility with a more than 25-foot tall, 12 carbon fiber blade fan that produces 6,700 horsepower and, when it reaches its max RPM of 253, can push enough air to achieve, that's right, 193 miles an hour. What's even cooler is that Honda gave me a tour of this brand new facility and let me take my camera. In this video, I'll show you around the place and speak with two experts about the facility. We'll first chat with Mike Unger, who is the wind tunnel lead and shares details about the wind tunnel itself. That's followed with a conversation with Chris Combs, who leads business strategy for the wind tunnel and gives us a broader overview of the entire facility and how Honda hopes to use it. I mainly stay behind the camera, but I did get a little excited when they offered me a chance to play with the smoke wand.
Oh, look at that!
This is a super cool facility and definitely worth checking out. Very honored to be now speaking with Mike Unger, who is the Halo lead, is that correct?
That's correct.
And we are in the wind tunnel, so if I look down this way, the airflow flows that direction. And then if I look this way, the air comes this direction. And how fast can the air come this direction and go that direction?
In this nozzle configuration at 25 square meters, we can do 250 kph.
Okay.
In the smaller configuration at 18 square meters, we can do 310 kph, which is 193 miles an hour.
Wow. Okay. And when you say nozzle configuration, you're talking about these walls right here.
That's correct. The side walls can come in and the top will come down.
Okay. Wow.
And make the nozzle a little bit smaller.
Okay. And then we don't see the pad right now. We've got this floor over it, but there's also, you have a 5-belt system and a single belt system, and those can also travel at really high speeds as well.
That's correct. The 5-belt system is designed for cars that have higher ride heights, SUVs, pickups, and so forth. That system road speeds can be up to 250 kph. The wide belt system, which is designed mainly for cars that are lower to the ground, like the NSX.
Like this right here.
Or race cars, that system can do 310 kph.
Okay, okay. So why have the two different belt systems? Why not just use single belt for everything?
There's pluses and minuses to each system. For example, the 5-belt system only has 4 pins, 4 connections to the car on the underside of the car, kind of out of the upper stream air. So it might be, in some situations, depending on what the engineer is trying to figure out, it might be better to use the 5-belt system to solve upper body aerodynamic issues. Whereas if you're working on an Indy car or a car that's really low to the ground doing underbody work, you might choose to do the wide belt system because it'll be the best simulation for the underbody flow.
And that's because with the 5-belt system, you have attachments underneath the car. And then the single belt system, the attachments are kind of on the side and come out.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Now, this one amazing thing about this tunnel is that you can see the room is much bigger than that nozzle. And the room is also much bigger than this area here. You gave me a chance to be in this room with the air flowing. I couldn't believe how little wind I felt when I was just outside of this boundary area right here.
Yep.
Why is that?
A lot of work has been done to make sure the air coming out of this nozzle is as uniform and turbulence-free as possible. Naturally, because of all that extra work that's been done, we have what that boundary develops, and it's called the shear layer. So that's why it's so quiet, and that's why you hardly notice it's there until you walk into it.
Yeah, that's really something. And the other thing that was really remarkable is you don't even hear the wind so much until you hear it hit the surface of something like the front of the car or yourself if you step into the wind or whatever it is.
Cool.
Now the other thing, now we're in this big room, I see microphones on that big half circle up there. I see a big bevy of microphones above us, and then there can be microphones kind of around the car. What is that for?
That's the acoustic array. We use that system to identify wind noise on the car, on the exterior of the car, and then we also have a system that we put inside the car where we can identify noises that permeate through and the customer would hear. So this whole system is designed to quickly give the aeroacoustic engineer an assessment of the intensity of the noise and exactly where the wind noise is happening. So then the engineer can go directly to that area and figure out exactly why it's happening and potentially fix it.
Wow. Okay, and then the other thing that's really impressive in this room is if we look here, we see this like little pressure. Well, let's walk up to it. We have this little pressure nozzle right here, but then you start looking up and you see it's attached to this massive crane system that goes along the roof over here and along here. So what is this huge array that is ultimately for this fairly small nozzle right there?
This is the Traverse. This is basically a robotic arm where we can put any kind of probe you want on the end of that arm.
And when you say any kind of probe, what do you mean? Like that's a pressure probe, is that right?
Currently that's a 14-hole probe. So that right now we use it to measure the pressure, what we call the pressure wake. But we could put any kind of sensor you want on the end of that. We could measure velocity, we could measure pressure, we could measure, we could put a microphone on the end, whatever you need. And the big Traverse here, the idea is we can move it behind the car, beside the car, anywhere around the car and measure any kind of phenomena we're looking for to understand and possibly give the engineer some idea as to why they're possibly getting the noises that they're getting or possibly the aerodynamic effect that they're getting. This is just another diagnostic tool to help the engineer make the right decision.
And then on the other side of this wall right here, that is where you can change from the 5 tunnel to the single, the 5 belt to the single belt. And that can be done in a matter of a few hours?
It's about a 4-hour operation. This wall opens up to the infield where we store whatever module's not being used. There's a crane that can come in. We would pick up the module that's being used, move it into its parked position and put it out of the way, and then grab the new module and put it back in on the balance and in the turntable. It takes 7 or 8 people to do it.
Wow. Well, Mike, it is so cool to get a little bit more of the incredible detail of what it takes to operate a full-scale wind tunnel and get wind tunnel aerodynamics testing, aeroacoustics testing done, and indeed motorsport work done as well. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Chris Combs, thank you so much for inviting me to see this brand new wind tunnel from Honda, the Halo as it's called. This is a brand new facility from Honda, and it sounds like eventually you'll have third-party people come in and offer access to this facility, but primarily this is a Honda facility that's going to focus on wind tunnel testing for aerodynamics, acoustics testing for noise, wind noise, and those types of things, and also, as you can see in the background, motorsport. So those are the 3 primary roles that Honda's going to use for this facility, correct?
You're exactly correct.
So how do you see that breaking down? Where is the majority of the time of this facility going to be used?
Well, I think like you mentioned, our first area of focus is to support Honda development, products that we develop over at the Automotive Development Center and supporting their aerodynamics and aeroacoustic needs. And that is really the foundational support that we want to provide with this facility for the development of Honda products. Then we want to lean into the research area, the support of a consortium, kind of overall industry research, and kind of advancing methods and tools to advance aerodynamic research. So that's phase 2. And then as that evolves, we're going to explore, exactly like you mentioned, third-party and other customer usage. We expect to be at kind of fully operational later this year.
So, you know, this is a singular wind tunnel, but as you can see, we're in a separate bay right now, and you have multiple bays in this center. So this is a brand new building. I mean, just looking at the facility, it's visually impressive.
As you mentioned, there's different focus areas that we want to, how we want to use this wind tunnel. And thinking about those three areas of the aerodynamics, the aeroacoustics, and the motorsports component, all of those areas within Honda were going to different facilities to test. And so we wanted to take and build one facility that could allow those three particular areas to thrive and grow into the future. And so that was kind of the blank sheet of paper with this facility of how we approached it, of taking the engineers here in Ohio and getting together with their counterparts in Japan and going, what would you want in this facility? And what have you experienced in other facilities that you've learned from that you want to incorporate to make this a world-class facility?
And the wind tunnel itself, we've seen the turbine. It's so super cool. 6,700 horsepower from this big electric motor, super tight tolerances around everything, and then all this work to just make the airflow as clean and as laminar as possible. And of course, the wind turbine itself can also produce wind at over 300 kph.
It's the whole tunnel functioning as a system, or it's designed that way. As you saw, the fan generates flow that enables us through all of the conditioning and the nozzle coming into the test section to be able to generate 310 kph.
So that's an important distinction you're making there. You're saying the wind turbine itself doesn't spin that quickly necessarily, but it produces such a huge volume of air that once that air is channeled in the specific way that it is, it can go up to 310 kph.
That's exactly correct.
Yeah,
yes.
And wind tunnels are not simple buildings, are they?
No, there's an amazing amount of thought and design and complexity that goes into generating that airflow, creating the laminar flow, straightening it out, smoothing it out, so when it hits the car or the vehicle in the test section, it is as uniform as possible.
And the more uniform it is, the better the data you collect from it.
That's correct.
Yeah, but going to the best possible data, that's why you guys have that really incredible, basically scan tool to understand the frontal area of cars as well.
Yes. The frontal area measurement system gives us the ability to get exactly what the airflow is seeing as it enters the test section as far as the vehicle that's being tested.
So you guys are going to be able to test aerodynamics, acoustics, and motorsport. Do you have a general sense of what that breakdown will be in terms of percentage of use?
We're working through that right now as we go through our operational readiness and working with the different teams. I mean, it's going to change year from year, depending on what the product development demand is and the technology advancement, as well as the research component. So we're leaning into that right now over the next year.
And as you can see, we have an older sports car behind us as well, but obviously Honda is committed to IMSA and sports car racing, including 24 Hours of Le Mans in the future. How much work needs to be done there could play a role.
We have the flexibility to test for all of those different programs.
Yeah, that's incredible. A big part of wind tunnel testing, you're talking about all that goes into getting the flow of air so precise, but this is also being able to control other variables, a big one being ride height. So how do you control for things like that?
We have a ride height management system, and it's replacing the dampers in the vehicle with hydraulically controlled actuators. This gives us the ability to raise and lower the vehicle within a tolerance of about 0.5 millimeter.
Chris Combs, thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for access to this facility. It's cool to know about, but it's just so incredible to see firsthand the work and the intricacy that goes into things like this, and to see how cars really are developed. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Robin. It's been great talking with you.
I'm Robin Warner. Thank you for watching. And if you are still watching, I'd really appreciate it if you like this video and subscribe to my channel. Those things really, really do help me out a lot. Okay, goodbye.
Oh, look at that! I'm just looking at the smoke.
All the smoke going back. That's amazing.